Okay. Okay, now we're live.
Now we're live. Okay. Well, I'll just run through the
Great
whole thing really quick. Episode 26 tonight. Chad's in Texas or on his way to Texas. Mark and I are running the ship tonight. Mark and I are running the ship tonight, episode 26. We welcome in USD women's basketball coach, Coach Carrie Eighmey. Coach, thanks for being with us. This has been a long time coming. I'm glad we were able to all catch up at the Summit League tournament, and we're happy to have you on the show tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. Like I said, this is much anticipated as I've heard so many great things about the podcast. So
Baby steps. We're just starting out.
I mean, Devin already made his appearance, had a lot of great things to say. So,
and I understand he tends to get the bigger screen, right? When you start, you like the laptops. I believe you've told me that before. You're just like, give me the one screen.
Yeah.
On the computer.
And he's got like 14, he's got multiple screens going on. It's just too much. I don't know where to look. I'm trying to drag things around. I don't know.
Well, Coach, I thought I'd start off. Can you kind of just give us and the Coyote fans that are listening and watching, kind of give us that 10,000-foot view of the season? What you like, what went well, and then what didn't necessarily go so well. X's and O's, Y's maybe for the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what went well is had the opportunity to coach really high character, young women, all really good people. So that always makes the transition a lot easier. I've done this multiple times, and anytime you have a group of kids that are as good of people as the ones that we had here, definitely makes it a lot easier. From the season standpoint, obviously, lots of ups and downs. It was kind of a roller coaster sort of season. I feel like there were moments, especially early in the year, where we had a lot of close games that I feel like if we would have won maybe 3 or 4 of those overtime games or really close games, it might have given us a little bit more momentum. The non-con, it did a lot for us in the sense of showing us areas that we needed to continue to improve. But it was a very, very difficult non-conference schedule. And, I think sometimes that can be good and bad. It can be good in the sense that it prepares you for conference. It can be a little bit challenging in the sense that, you're trying to also build a little bit of confidence, especially when you have a new group, new staff, new team. So, I think obviously, we've talked about this just in passing and things like that, but, defensively, rebounding wise, not exactly, what we want, what we would have, said, okay, here's the ideal situation, defensively, just not near as difficult to score on as we'd like to be. I think we were around just under maybe a point per possession, which is not great. You kind of want to get down in there in the high 60s and low 70s points per possession, at least. So not great there. Rebounding was a struggle. Stylistically, sometimes you don't get to choose what you do in your first season. You just figure out, okay, what are the best things we can do for this group in trying to help them be in positions where they can win games. And so that's what we did. And again, the best thing about it was we had some coachable kids who were willing to do what we were asking. And that part of it went pretty well.
Coach, we became really big fans of Miss Grace Larkins here over the course of the year and her career, really. I know you've been asked this a ton of times, but could you just give us a brief overview of what it was like to coach her for a year?
Yeah, I mean, she's unique for so many reasons. I think when I first took the job, she was unique in just her like competitiveness and just drive. She's a kid that I think she's been in the gym pretty much every day for most of her career. And I think sometimes older players they get to that point in their career where they get like the urgency, the sense of urgency comes like, oh my gosh, my career is about over. I need to get going. Grace never had to go through that because she was always going. And I've always said that players who put in the work, like their freshman, sophomore years of college, even into their junior year, by the time they're a senior, um, they can almost like taper back a little bit because they've put in all the work. They've kind of
Mhm.
done everything you can do, and now it's just going out there and getting to utilize all the tools that you've added to your bag and being able to just kind of go out there and rock. And that's kind of what you saw is she's done all that work, and I've told her multiple times, like, you're going to be one of those players that when you get to the end of your career, personally, I mean, obviously from a team standpoint, she would have liked to do more. But personally, she's going to be able to look back and say, like, man, I did everything I could possibly do to really squeeze out my full potential. She was incredible. Obviously the work ethic, the competitiveness, the drive, but then also just the unique skill set. I mean, she's one of the most unique players I've ever coached. Her ability to score one-on-one in multiple ways, obviously driving to the rim. What's interesting about her 3-point percentage this year is we were joking one day, I was rebounding for her and she said, Coach, I never really catch and shoot threes. She does it. They're always off the dribble. And so for her to shoot low 30s, but because they're always like fairly difficult threes is really, really impressive, to be honest. And then obviously she's you get her at the rim one-on-one, you're not stopping her. And it took our coaches in the league a while to figure that out. And then, she can post up. She's just as physical as she is, rebounding wise. I've never coached a player who's a better rebounder for her position. And I talked about this at the last radio show, but for her to be 4 rebounds short of being in the company of Sabrina Ionescu and Caitlin Clark as the only players in NCAA history in Division I to have 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 1,000 assists is unbelievable. It's super unfortunate that we didn't get her those 4 more rebounds, but because she earned that, really. So I can't say enough good things about her. Obviously super fortunate to have had the opportunity to coach her. We've talked about it before, but she had opportunities to bounce and go somewhere else. And she's a super loyal kid. She loves USD. And I happen to be here at the right time to have an opportunity to coach her for a year.
And when we had her on, it was an absolute treat. What was it, about a month ago or so? And we very much look forward to seeing her next year, right, with law school and whatnot. And she might even sit in section 106 for some games.
Maybe.
Right, Mark?
That's what she said.
That's what she said. We're going to
save her spot.
Bring
we
the
threw
sip
it out to
at
her that she could come be a practice player. So I don't know if she will, but
Hey, if you got any pull, I should have like another year left of practice squad eligibility. I did it for a couple years under Amy Williams, and at the time they told me I was out, but maybe you can find a loophole.
Hey,
I need to get
probably
back
good
into it.
now. Were any of those years at JUCO? Because you can get one
Nope.
of those years back now for sure.
Nope. Unfortunately, no. I might be out, but it was worth a shot. All right. So looking ahead, right, to now the off season from a fan's perspective, but you guys don't stop. The transfer portal, you've got that unique combination between the traditional recruiting right out of high school and then with the others, right? So I'm going to steal this question from Mark. So sorry, Mark. You're really emphasizing, and this was on the Yote report last week too. So for folks that didn't hear this answer, you're looking at defense and rebounding. Those are high emphasis on your list. Does it matter the grade level at the portal, or is it this basketball player meets what I want, what I'm looking for? Doesn't matter the grade level. Let's bring them in.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think first, when we talk about, yes, we're really emphasizing defense and rebounding because we felt like that was an area that we really struggled in, but we need two-way players. Just to be clear about that, you can have a really great defensive team that can't score, and that's not great either. You got to kind of have both, So really, the emphasis is on two-way players that can really defend and has the ability to score in one way or the other. I think from how old or how many years do they have of eligibility? I think what we've tended to try to do a little bit is make sure that we have some experience on the team. I think that's extremely important, especially in this day and age with the transfer portal and with, kids getting extra years for various reasons. The COVID kids are kind of phasing out, but now it's more of, red shirts and medical red shirts and things like that. So I think it's really, really hard to take a group of super young kids that don't have experience right now and be able to try to win games. It's just, you look around the country and there's not very many super young teams like that anymore. I think you can prevent it a little bit more now with the opportunity to be able to work in the transfer portal. So for us, it's trying to we do a lot of predictions about, okay, how many kids do we have signed in the 25s and how many kids do we have signed in the 26s? And so when you're in the portal, you are being mindful, right? Of yes, we need experience, right? We also need to try to even out our classes a little bit. Right now our class sizes are very, very lopsided.
Sure.
So moving forward, you'd like to get to a place where, you're maybe losing 3 kids, and we're talking to exhaustion of eligibility. Not, hopefully you're not losing a bunch to the transfer portal, but 3 kids or 4 kids max a year, right? And you're funneling those back in on the backside, and you get to where you have some pretty even classes to where you're not having to, lose 6 or 7 kids at one time, and then, try to get the transfer portal going again for 6 or 7 at a time. That's just a lot. So, for us, it will be kind of that we're working the portal, trying to find the best fits, but also trying to figure out, okay, how does this look in 2 years? I couldn't tell you how many sheets of paper Devin uses to take and scratch out, okay, projections, we're big on that, and we'll lay out, depth charts for 3-4 years in advance, trying to say, okay, in 2 years, we're going to have a hole here. And that used to be something that we really, really, really relied on. Now it's just one tool we use because it's a little bit more fluid, I guess would be the right word. These days, you don't really know for sure that's going to look that way next year or the following year because of the transfer portal and just because of the fluidity of the movement. But I think for us, point guards in particular, it's been helpful for us to stay a little bit older at the point guard position, just because it's such it's a position where you're trusting that person to kind of be the coach on the floor and be able to think at a level where, they're thinking timeouts and possessions and, being able to track in their mind, okay, we've had 3 empty possessions. Let's really work to get a great shot here. That's a lot going on, and to be able to, handle the ball and get it where it's supposed to go and be a scorer and a good defender and all those kind of things. So it's just a lot, and freshmen, I I don't care how good of a point guard you are as a freshman, it's a lot. So, we always like to have an older point guard to kind of train a younger one, and kind of help them get acclimated, and then they kind of, work into that spot. That's the ideal situation. But in your first year, you're not really in your ideal situation. So, it will come though.
Yeah, for sure. So, Coach, this is a multi-pronged question, I think. The portal opens on the 25th en masse for women's basketball as well?
Yep.
Okay. And do you have a sense of what the roster is going to look like? And the second part of that question is, do you have a dedicated person to keep track of NCAA rules nowadays? I know they changed the JUCO rule, they changed the redshirt rule. It seems like day to day it's changes.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. So we just are coming off a spring break. So we'll have our meetings with our players here in the next couple of days. So then we'll have a better, just understanding of where we're actually at. And yes, the portal opens on the 25th for all non-grad transfers, or all athletes whose coaches are still currently at that school. So the transfer portal has technically opened for anybody who's not D1 or whose coach has changed, whether, been fired or took a different job, grad transfers. So there are quite a few players that are actually already in the portal, for any one of those reasons. The rules, that's a great question, because they are literally changing every week. The JUCO rule, that was kind of like last week, that it was like confirmed. So, we kind of had heard that was going to be happening, or it could potentially be happening, but it's just really interesting because it's not like, hey, on this date, here are when the rules can change. It's just like the NCAA is like, oh, here you go. And by the way, this is what we're doing for this. So obviously Mike Moran, our compliance officer, does a really, really good job of keeping us up to date. But also we just try to, stay locked in on it. And as a staff, just pay attention to make sure that we're aware of what's going on. And because obviously that rule about the JUCO players really impacts, who's going to be available. There's going to be some players that wouldn't have been available that now are, and maybe have a year left and are looking to have a different experience or whatever. So yeah, it's hard to keep track of, but we're trying to stay on top of it.
Coach, I'm going to change it up a little bit. As a player or as a coach, and as a coach, have you ever had an awkward moment on the basketball court? Like, did you call a timeout when you didn't have any, or have you ever had an awkward moment?
I almost called a timeout one time. Devin kind of kept me from doing it, but I did almost call a timeout. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've told either of you this, like maybe in just conversation. I don't think so, but I used to be kind of crazy on the sideline, and I got a technical. So playing my former coach and boss, I played for him for 4 years. Then I worked for him for 8 years. Then we coached against each other. We were rivals. He was at Fort Hays State. I was at Nebraska Kearney. And we had no business being in the game with him my first year. They were way better than us. They were like top 5 in the country. We took them to overtime both times, both at home and on the road. We were at home up for 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes left in the game. It's right in front of our bench, so I can see it all happening. Our girl goes in for a layup. It gets blocked out of bounds, probably a foul, whatever. I'm thinking, okay, at least we have the ball back. Nope, ref, no foul. Call goes the other way. And the ref, his name was Doug. Yeah, he is a jerk. No, I'm kidding. Kind of. He actually reffed me when I was in college. So he was kind of on the tail end of his career. We'd had a long history. So I'm like going at him, right? And we had that relationship and we're fine. But the new guy from all the way across the other side of the floor comes running over, tees me up. And Doug, the other guy's looking at him like, you didn't just do that, did you? So he tees me up.
Oh my God.
And so they make the 2 free throws. They get the ball in bounds and they hit a 3 within like 15 seconds. So we go from up 4 to down 1 in 15 seconds, end up going to overtime, lose. And for me, that was embarrassing because I was like, man, I feel like I lost our team that game. And that's the last technical I ever got. So I learned my lesson. And
So you're going to
yeah,
be more of a first half technical coach from now on. Nothing in the
right.
second
First
half,
half.
but
There you go.
okay.
Maybe I should have had that strategy first.
Set the tone.
Right. I mean, this year I probably had one that I probably could have gotten a technical when it was one of the earlier games. At halftime I kind of met him at the, free throw line. Kind of went at him a little bit.
I don't know what you thought.
You don't have to comment on this, but I've told Mark this. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is when an official makes a call that on the opposite side of a court. Like if a call's happening in the bottom left and there's an official right on the baseline there, and then the guy on the near sideline is looking at it. They don't see anything, but then the guy far away standing at half court or the ref at half court makes the call.
Yeah.
And it's like, you couldn't have seen that.
Yeah.
But that's
Usually what
biggest.
they'll tell me is they had a better angle, or that guy's view was being blocked. That ref's view was being blocked or something like that. But
I
yeah,
try to see it that way, but depending on the play, sometimes I'm like, there's no way when 5 girls are standing in between you and oh man, I would not be a good coach in that regard.
I don't know. I've gotten way better with the refs because when I used to think they were always my enemy and would fight with them about every single call, it was like, I don't think I'm really helping myself here, And also the biggest thing, the reason why I kind of changed that was because it distracts you, it takes you away from really thinking about your team and coaching your team. And, and then your players start to kind of get whiny. And I mean, so you got to kind of pick and choose your times. And what I've learned is a little bit, they listen a lot better when you do say something. I've had a lot of refs say, hey, you don't get mad very often. So I looked at that call at halftime and you were right. Or,
Yep.
So I think that's probably a maturity thing for me a little bit. But the first 5 years I was.
And I love that though. So you haven't had like a Fran McCaffrey versus Kelly Pfeiffer stare down with the ref before?
No. I
don't see that happening. No, I 100% agree with you though. It can be distracting and yeah. Oh, we got Chad.
I like that comment. Mark's got it under control.
Yeah.
We might have some shirts.
I've matured as well.
An eye chart shirt.
I've matured as well. Instead of yelling at the refs, I just show them the eye chart and say nothing. So
there you go.
Gets the
I like doing the thumbs down. I told Mark and Chad this. It's like when instead of flipping someone off on the interstate, or something where they driving, I give them a thumbs down, and that usually has a better impact on them. So I try to do that at basketball games too.
I wonder.
We're making baby steps.
All of us are growing.
Yes,
correct. Coach, what are your thoughts on your first round trip through the Summit League overall? Obviously, your first rivalry matchups with the Blue School up north and kind of all that.
Yeah, the rivalry's intense. I think it loses some intensity. I've always said this about rivalries. It was just like the one I had at Kearney with Fort Hays. It wasn't very intense when it was really lopsided. And it grew in intensity. I mean, you guys have experienced this before, right? When a few years ago, right? When it was kind of back and forth a little bit, it intensifies, and they don't like you even more. So funny story for you. I was in Sioux Falls meeting with uh, with a donor the other day, and we're minding our own business, having a conversation. I was wearing yoke gear, of course, and a lady just walks by me. I've never met her, never made eye contact. Like I didn't initiate any sort of conversation with her. She just walks by me and looks at me and goes, "I'm really sorry." And that was it. I was like, "Okay, that was kind of rude." But we'll let it
You
go.
get used to it.
We'll let it go. So, yeah.
That's eye chart material right there.
Yeah, anyway, back to answer your question. I just thought that was interesting. I was like, "Wow, okay. It is an intense rivalry." Um, yeah, the rivalry is great. I think the level of the top end of the conference, especially in the middle, I was pretty impressed with. The athleticism I thought was pretty decent. Like collectively. Obviously UMKC made some strides. I thought they were a little bit better. UND, they have a couple kids on their team that can really, really be explosive. So even St. Thomas, athletically, they had a couple kids that I was really impressed with. So the league is well coached. Most of those schools are really well supported from a fan standpoint, attendance standpoint. NDSU, UND, thought those were great environments. So it was fun, fun to be in the league. Like I said, gave us I said this the other day on the radio show, but as a staff, it gives us a really good idea of, what does it take to win in this league? Once you've been through it, you gain a much better understanding of, what size do you need? What athleticism do you need? What styles? I mean, there's a lot of different styles in the league right now, but what style do you feel like can help you get to the top of the league? So that's kind of what we've done where we've been before, as we've rebuilt places, is just, look at, there's a way you might want to play, but there's also, you need to look at what wins in this league, and be able to say, okay, you're either going to figure out how to kind of do that and do it well and make your way to the top and battle those teams, or you're going to do something way different. Be better or be different. And I don't know. I feel like I've always had the mindset that you be better is a better way to go about it.
And you're 100% right, coach. And even like preseason polls don't matter, but from what I saw and like, with teams and the talent that they have and how some of them are really young and should, right? We can't say should have the talent coming back. Like folks should get used to seeing like ORU, Kansas City, NDSU towards the top of any like preseason predictive stuff based on the talent that they'll have coming back next year. So you're right. It's something we're not used to, but that speaks highly of the league as a whole.
For sure.
Yeah, we always try to argue with that the league is down, and I always battle that. Like the student athletes just get better and better every year. Like it's just more parity now.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely don't agree with that, because I think that the competitiveness of the league has actually gotten better. I think a few years ago, right, NDSU was really struggling and ORU wasn't great, and so UND this year, if they bring their whole team back, UND has a chance to be pretty good. They've got some kids on that team that are young that are pretty good. So I disagree. I think the teams that were maybe, but I think it was probably like the top 2 or 3, and then everybody else was not super competitive. And now I think, several of those schools are kind of figuring it out.
For sure. Last one for me, coach. So We do have a bracket challenge. If you got the ESPN Tourney Challenge app, it's the Howling Podcast Bracket Challenge. Feel free to join. You can be anonymous, whatever. But so if you join that, who you got in the Final Four? Who's cutting down the nets this year in the women's side?
Whew. Well, I mean, I think South Carolina's a little upset about not getting the 1 seed. I know Don said that they're not going to use that as like a chip or motivation, but I feel like it will be. So I just think South Carolina and UConn are really hard to count out. Just from my own experiences in tournaments and like when you've done it before and you've been there, it's different. You find ways to win, you know what to expect, so I just think those two teams are teams that have been there, they've done it, their coaches know how to win the tournament, those kind of things. UConn, South Carolina. The other two, I don't know if I want to go on record saying that I know for sure what's going to happen. UCLA, I don't know. I think they might get upset. Here's a question for you. The blue team, the other team, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're playing Oklahoma State in that first round. Who you got?
I'm a Cowboy.
Are you?
I've been a
Well, I'm not,
big
but
hope.
I'm rooting for them.
I'd have to look. I'm familiar with the coach, obviously being from Kansas City previously,
Yes.
but
She was actually in my
I'd have
wedding.
to.
Really?
Oh,
Fun
no
fact for
kidding.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to see like I don't know if there is Oklahoma State long, athletic. Like
I mean, they really score it. It'll be interesting. I mean, I think it's going to be a good game. But that one is one you want to keep your eye on. I think 7-10.
Mm-hmm. I didn't think they were going to get a 10. I thought they'd get that 7, 8, or 9 line, but
you thought they would be better than a 10.
yeah. But I didn't
too.
take into account the net ranking wasn't the best
Sure.
for them. I think they were mid 40s.
It was pretty good initially, and then obviously, it changes throughout the year, and
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously played a decently tough schedule, so I don't know.
Coach, so I have once you were confirmed to be on the show, I did a little Google search, and
Okay.
I have a picture I want to show you. Comment on.
Geez.
I don't know if you want to
It's
bring
gonna be
these
embarrassing.
back.
Oh my gosh, I knew it was gonna be that one. How about that? First of all,
Did we bring those jerseys back, or what? How did
hey, I
those
have that
fade
jersey
into existence?
still. If you want to see it at some
Really?
point. Yeah, it's
Oh
like
my
the
goodness.
it's like the with the holes in it, like the old school
Oh yeah.
mesh, but it was like the fancy mesh.
What were the kicks? Were those and ones?
Can you go back? Can you pull it up one more time? It depended on the year. Oh yeah, those were and ones.
Yeah. Yes.
So I wore orthotics, and they were like one of the only pairs of shoes that were wide enough for the orthotic to fit in, because they were like really wide and thick and hard, and so I didn't care. I wasn't too concerned about. Hey, when you're at that level, you don't even have to wear a certain brand. You can wear whatever you want.
Fabric was cheap back.
Do you still have them?
Probably somewhere in a box. Devin always asks, where's all the memorabilia? I'm like, it's, in a box somewhere.
I love that.
All right, Coach. I appreciate you joining us. Keep those scissors sharpened. We're going to cut nets here sooner rather than later. So really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, guys.
We're rooting for you. Have a good off season.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Coach. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Take care.
A+.
A+.
I'm excited.
She'll get it turned around. No questions asked.
We mentioned
No,
that last week, and we talk about it all the time, obviously, but it's just, she's right. That first season, you can't quite do what you want to do. And I think that going into next year will be like that first true rebuild year.
right.
And
It'll be very interesting to see, what it looks like on March 26th,
yeah,
what the roster
I,
looks like, and where we got to fill holes and whatnot. So,
I just can't imagine. And that's so with these other teams too, really quick before we move on, like she talked about defense and rebounding, but man, these teams like ORU and Kansas City, like long and quick, that athleticism, like those two teams, and NDSU to an extent too,
that's
were just long, like very long. State had the post players, but like the wings weren't terribly long, very quick, but we're going to need some size. And yeah, I can't wait. I can't imagine having to navigate that portal stuff as a coach. So my goodness.
yeah. Need a full-time staff just to manage that. I'm with you. NDSU, Jory Collins does a great job up there.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to drift down the standings here moving forward.
Tournament
It'll be
all
team
about matchups.
contending.
That was the one team that
Right.
they did not match up well against in Kansas City, and onward though, right?
Right. All right. So I'm going to try to get to the next slide here without. I don't know how to get the slides back, Jordan. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Chad, miss you.
Really do. All right. Last week, softball went 3-3. They were out in South Carolina. They have the preseason is over with, as the volleyball coach and softball agrees. It's preseason. They finished preseason 17-11, headed into conference play.
All right.
And for Chad, the tennis had a win over Fairfield, Hampton, and Lamont.
Fairfield.
So they're 7-6 on the year. They're also heading into conference play. So shout out to softball and tennis. News and notes. Obviously, we have some portal news already with the grad transfers. Carly Duffney, who committed to Green Bay shortly after entering, and Chase Forte, Dre Bullock also entered the transfer portal. Wait to see where they land. Football news, named a couple new coaches to fill in, I think, to round out our staffs, I believe. Eric Finney, cornerbacks coach, and Patrick Marcanian, probably said that wrong, offensive line coach. Thoughts on those two fellas, Jordan?
I love it. Great pass. I'm just really glad we rounded out the coaching staff for spring ball.
Nice to have it done. Yep. And the other note I put down here, Eric Hammer, probably pronounced his name wrong as well, but he placed 9th in the pole vault at Nationals and was named an All-American for the 3rd time. So
Eric,
congrats to
really
Eric.
Really good at pole vaulting.
Right. I think he tied his PR there at Nationals or bested it. I can't remember what exactly, but definitely jumped well. So congrats to him. And you want to take us through our bracket challenge?
Yeah, through the ESPN Tournament Challenge app. Just go to groups in the app or on your computer and search the Howling Podcast Bracket Challenge, men's and women's. Got it up. Winner of each group or two. We haven't decided yet. Depends on how many T-shirts I order. But we'll get you a new Howling Pack. I said that so many times today. We were talking about the Yote Fund a lot in the family today. You'll get a brand new The Howling Podcast T-shirt with our new logo, and then I'll throw in a USD card decal as well. Especially if you beat me. Women's, it's tough to beat me. I'm not gonna lie. I've been 98th percentile the last few years. So, but yeah, I had to
feel like.
Oh, what's that?
I was just gonna say. So I feel like the women's bracket I still feel like women's basketball is still pretty top heavy, and so you can take the higher seeds all the way. Where the men's, at least in recent years, there's been some teams that maybe aren't the 1 or 2 seeds making Final Fours and stuff like that.
Usually, how I do it is, and it's that 7 and 10 matchup, 6 and 11. If you can pick one of those right, usually there's one of them. The 5-12, obviously, there's even in women's, there's 1 or 2. I've just been lucky enough to hit those, and I don't want to pick that 7-10 matchup between Oklahoma State and the team up north, but I got to do my due diligence. I don't know anything about Oklahoma State, so. But that's our podcast bracket challenge. I think they lock on Thursday by 11, whenever it is.
And 25, I believe it's capped at 25 total participants.
Yeah,
so
just one entry per user. It's just one bracket, but first 25 to join get a shot at a very nice T-shirt. Very nice. Yeah. Thanks to our sponsors at the Wakanda Peach Company.
Yeah, great people there. Great people.
Out of Burbank.
All right, so here's the men's bracket, which you probably cannot make out, but I did want to mention Omaha, our Summit League team, traveling out to Providence, Rhode Island, take on St. John's. I don't know if that's the best draw for them necessarily, if you're hoping for them to move forward. If you're one of those Summit League, if my team doesn't make it, I'm rooting for the Summit League team type people.
Tell you what, they're going to be on their name, at least their logo and name are going to be on the screen a lot, because that quadrant down there with those head coaches, my goodness, they're going to kind of be like the forgotten team out of the 4, but at least their logo and name will be mentioned a lot. I mean, you got Bill Self, John Calipari, and then Patino. Like, that's incredible.
It truly is. Yeah. It would be fun if they could sneak out of there, but in my mind, that's a tough draw. Travel all the way out east, and I think the game starts at 9 o'clock our time, something like that. So, but it'll be certainly interesting to watch. So, get in the bracket challenge, win a T-shirt, and then I also put the women's bracket on here, which is even harder to read. As we mentioned with Coach Eighmey, South Coast State ended up with a 10 seed, which I thought was not where I thought. I agree with you, Jordan. I thought they would be a higher seed than that, but they get Oklahoma State. J.C. Hoyt, obviously former Kansas City coaches Oklahoma State, so I'm not sure when they play exactly, but that's the matchup there. So.
And that's out in Connecticut with UConn there. So if they do happen to get by Oklahoma State, that's a tough draw against UConn, who I mean,
Paige Beckers is amazing.
Yeah, it's at least it'll be a good experience, no matter the good rep for the Summit League. But we'll just have to see.
Both Summit Leagues going. Teams
One thing I noticed too, ORU did get invited to the WBIT. Which is that like the WNIT now, or is that different? I have no idea, but it's the WBIT. I think it's like the next one below the big dance. But good luck to ORU representing the Summit League as well.
Yep. Coming up this week, we actually have a home softball game, and you might want to take advantage of it this weekend, because I believe it's the only home matchup. I know we don't get any in April, so the next home matchup is in May for the softball team. Kind of crazy how the schedule worked out.
That schedule.
We'll play I don't know. We'll be playing North Dakota, doubleheader Saturday, and a follow-up on Sunday. And women's tennis for Chad will be out in Kansas City. So good luck to both those squads.
Yes, good luck. Get some dubs.
Oh, yeah. Now I got to play the eye chart video.
Here we go.
And that's just what they wanted to do there. And all things considered, again, as you see the eye chart cardboard cutout, how appropriate.
through the review, the eye chart made its way to the video board. It really injected
Let's go, Mark.
some energy.
As our loyal listeners already know, we've been doing the eye chart of the week since the episode 1 of this show, or and maybe we started a little later than that. But last week's winner, we had a tie for first place.
Whoa.
The fan submitted Premier Center no reentry, and my nominee, Senate Bill 172, getting defeated, tied with 40% of the vote with over 43,000 votes. Thanks to everyone who voted. CBS Sports social media. Yeah, pretty good turnout. So with that, I will give my eye chart of the week nominee, and I'm going to go with the NCAA selection committee, as that's big in the news right now, and their inclusion of North Carolina. I don't, on the men's side, I'm talking. Yeah. North Carolina making the field makes zero sense to me. They have, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, but one quad one win.
1-12.
1-12. Quad one. I didn't catch every one of their games. I'm not going to confess I did, but the ones I did watch, I mean, that didn't really pass the eye test to me. I know they played well versus Duke in the ACC tournament, and their brand. I get all that. But if you compare them to some of the teams like West Virginia and Illinois, I just don't know. Indiana. Yeah, I don't know how Illinois made the field. I was thinking Indiana. I don't know how you make that argument. I have no idea. So the NCAA selection committee on the men's side gets my eye chart of the week.
And to have the sitting AD apart, does he run the committee, or he's on the committee for sure?
No, he ran it. Yeah, he was
How is that? Like, what? I saw some tweets that they were like, they had like 1,000 different bracketology predictions and only 50 of them had North Carolina on it. Like, Indiana was on like 700 of them. I don't get it. And it royally stings as a Duke fan that they're in it. And I'm trying to be like unbiased as possible, but like, I'm like, the numbers, what, you're going to go with quad 2 wins that they win like 8 and something against. And if they win, it's me personally, I think the eye test, they're a pretty good team, especially towards the end. But are we going to go off eye tests? I don't know. Whatever. Good eye chart, Mark. Mine is not basketball related. Mine's weather related. And full disclosure, I have nothing but respect for the weather folks, and I don't know where the predictions exactly come from. It's from NWS right away or NOAA, wherever it comes from. But my eye chart is to all of them that made predictions that we were going to get this massive winter storm through this bomb cyclone with all the snow. And where we were at, they were expecting 4 to 6, 4 to 7 inches. And I woke up on Saturday and there was nothing. Yeah. Texted some folks down in Sioux Falls. They're like, yeah, we just got rain. The wind was correct. My eye chart goes to the weather prediction of this last weekend storm because it was very, very off.
Correct.
Very off.
Correct. Worst blizzard ever.
I know that it's weather and you can be right or wrong, but this was really far off.
Yeah. Yes. It's the best job in the world. They're like, you can be 100% wrong and they'll let you do the weather the next day.
And I appreciate what they do, keeping us all safe, but this is just a for fun eye chart, and they could not have been more off in eastern South Dakota with the snow part of it.
Right. Absolutely nothing. All right. Anything else?
No, Yote Fun booklets got sent out for folks. I know I emailed Ben at the the foundation office there, he was able to answer my questions, and I know I look forward to donating a little bit more. It makes sense when you look through that. So take a look,
Right.
and just email the office. They got back to me within an hour, emailed me back.
They've been really great about that. And I did a little quick math here as well and realized that, what initially felt like they were going to demand twice out of me is not the case. Like, my level is significantly more than I thought it was. And like you say, it entices you to maybe find an extra $50 here and there to help out. Well, I think it's a great idea. I think it'll be great. And like you say, they've been super great about answering questions. Shoot them an email or a DM through social media. They'll get back to you, I promise. So
Yeah. And last thing, I just always like mentioning too, the for those that have to renew plates in March, or if you have a emblem license plate in the state of South Dakota, $25 gets you a pair of the USD stickers, and it goes towards the Coyote Beginning scholarships for USD. So if you got one of those emblem plates that starts with an E, put the USD sticker on there for $25. You get them on each car. It's a great way to support scholarships at USD and show your Yote pride wherever you are at in South Dakota. You can do it.
Okay. Well, we'll try again. I'll be better next week. I don't know if Chad's going to be back next week. I really hope he is. I appreciate everyone.
You want me to wave this like Kornheiser? We'll try to be better than next time.
Yes, exactly.
Good night, Million.
Until next time, go Yotes.
Go Yotes.